Yo, episode 119. Let's do it. Uah. One, two, three. Let's do it. Monday party. Here we go. Cheers. Come on in. There we go. All right, folks. What's up? My name is Cardone. This is episode 119 of Evening Hour Live. What's up? Lots of people in here already. Come on in. I hope I don't have the crazy technical problems that I had last week. I won't, because I'm not using the hand cam. I ordered a new one. I needed a new one. Yeah, it could have been the camera is shorting it all out. Who the heck knows? Don't care. Cheers. Tonight, I love how everybody tells me what they're drinking. I like knowing that. It's kind of fun. We've got lots of tea, people. I'm Ancient Order. What the heck is that? That sounds good, Lilith. Green tea's a go for all. I'm drinking Schweppes Concord Grape. And let's see, does it work? Oh, look, see, this week everything's working, sort of. Yeah, cheers, everybody. I got lots to say today. Lots of fun stuff in the news. Oh my gosh, we got a lot of cool people in here. Lots of cool people. I got my mama and my sister watching every week, which is amazing. And a bunch of really great, smart, thinking people here. The Fly is one of my favorite movies. I would put that in my top 10 of greatest horror films ever made. Not the original, the remake. I own 2 Fly t-shirts, I think. Yeah, I have 2 Fly t-shirts. What's up, Peter? Mama in the house. Okay, so, I got a lot to say. Quickly, anybody that plays role-playing games, first of all, Hobo Namicon, number 3. This is a supplement quote, and I don't even know this. The guy that makes this is one of the artists for Dungeon Crawl Classics, and in this issue, he writes alternate versions of that game through his eyes, and in this there are rules to play a science fiction biker gang that flies through outer space. I can't wait to try that one day. But yeah. Issue number 3, Hobo Namicon. I don't know if anybody that plays DCC is watching, but highly recommended. Okay, let's get it out. Elon Musk bought Twitter. Personally, I think it's great. I think it's really. I want to talk about it a little bit. To me, this is a really large piece of news. I wanted to talk about it. A lot of people are spinning the Elon Musk buy into an anti-free speech thing. I've seen so much of it that I feel like I'm being gaslit into some sort of reality that I don't understand. How dare he buy our thing that's already privately owned? I don't know. So, basically, from what I gather, he has said multiple times he's doing it to preserve free speech, meaning, yeah, some of the bad guys that people don't like are going to return. I'm always saying more please, I'm okay with that. Unless we have a ministry of truth of some sorts, there's no other way that I see. And so having a, quote, ministry of truth to me is probably not a good idea. This is one of the ways I make decisions. And some might not think that this is not a good idea, but anything that I'm wanting to do, or agree with, I'll look at it and I'll say, if the bad guys have control of this, would I be going with the same thing that these people are recommending? If someone's saying, hey, you need to do this, and they're my friend, I'm like, cool, great. If they're my enemy and they're saying, hey, you should do this, I'm like, who are you to tell me what to do? So anything that comes at me, I put it on the people I don't like and see how I would feel. And then I make my decisions, if I'm going to go along with it or not, via my principles. So this is what he did. He's a chess player, folks. Okay? If you study this on a meta level, you will see a game of chess. He called the Twitter board on their bluff. He first bought the largest chunk of stock. He bought the big one. Boom. And they were like, oh, wow, he just bought the biggest lump of stock. And then they offered him a place on the board, and he turned it down because that wasn't his plan. He was setting up his chess move. I think it was 3 to 5 days later, he goes, oh, by the way, I'd like to buy the rest of the stock. The board members, who aren't the primary shareholders, most of them, or any of them for that matter, said no. They didn't like that. Gives them too much power, which makes no sense because they have the power anyways. So Elon basically threatened to pull out if they didn't go for it. He offered them a fair price. He figured out what it was worth last year, which was high, and then what it's worth now, and he kind of went up just a little bit above it. Just a little bit. And so what he did to call them on their bluff is he goes, how are you deciding the fate of Twitter now without asking the shareholders? Have a vote. Let them decide. Which put it right on their bluff. Like, if they did that, the shareholders would have been like, dump it. And he says he's trying, this is his main thing he's trying to do. A lot of people don't like to think about these things because it hurts, but there are filters in that Twitter that we'll never know about who they're favoring and who they're not, and who's paying them to favor certain sides of certain stories and not. They claim to be against hate speech, yet they let a lot of, quote, religious hate speech happen. You know, it's a very inconsistent group that they target. You know, it's very like, there's no rules written down. They don't want you to know the rules because they make them up as they go along, as dictated by whatnots. Yeah, great. I hope they delete their accounts. Yeah, I mean, there's turds in the pool all the time in a public forum, so how do you not? So here's what he's trying to do. He said, look, I'm going to make it so everybody can get verified. Notice that verified check doesn't have to do with how many followers you have. There's some weird stuff involved. So he's like, everybody's going to be able to get verified, meaning everybody's going to have to if you want to be verified, you have to prove you're a real person. The reasoning is, on Twitter, there's a lot of bots that aren't real people. And not only are they not real people, they've been around long enough that they are, quote, real people now. And so, for instance, just like the CIA, if they're going to do plant somebody in the middle of Iraq to do some sort of spy mission, they make them live there as a deli worker for years, so they blend in. Well, the bots on Twitter and on the internet do the same thing. It could be from a corporate entity. It could be from the governments. It could be from whomever. They go in there and they start dictating ideas and things and throwing out information. And Elon wants to create a system where the only rules that we have to follow are you can't make verbal, physical, threats to people, and which is already illegal. But other than that, free speech reigns. If you want to say whatever you want to say, it's up to you and whoever's going to yell at you underneath. I always think that's the better way to go. And yes, on the internet, we need one place that's the most open. Notice Twitter, when Elon said that didn't have a rebuttal. Like, oh yeah, well, we're going to do it too. They didn't. That would have been really rad if they would have been like, you know what? You're right. We should tweak this a bit. But they don't, because they're making money the way it is and they don't care. To me, the funny thing of the people, the ones running Facebook and Instagram are worse than Elon Musk. Well, they're doing the same thing. They have an invisible algorithm. There's no transparency. They make it up. I love what Fallon just said. I wonder if competing departments at Twitter make competing bots. They could be. We don't know. We will know soon. Because supposedly one of the things Elon wants to do is make it more transparent. Anybody that's, even if he's full of crap, whatever, he's still talking about it. No one even talks about it. And I hate to bring it up. The only giant politician to bring it up was Mr. Trump. It's the truth. He's the only one to be like, hey, they need to either pick platform or publisher. Please choose. He's the only, like, when he said that, I was like, wow, I wish it wasn't him that said it, because people would listen. But I agree with him there. I mean, we need one place where there is some sort of a little more freedoms. Where the algorithms aren't invisible. And again, I use the analogy of a little kid doing something bad, and you slap him in the hand, and you go, bad. And he's like, well, what did I do? And you go, you're not allowed to know. To me, that's what's going on in the internet. They don't want anybody to know what's bad. Which is, again, proves that they're full of it. Completely full of it. Because if they had a high moral ground, they wouldn't do that. They go, no, you're not allowed to do this, 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 and this. We've decided this is weird and not cool. They don't do that. Because it's fake. They're fake. And they're, quote, fact-checking. Again, who's the minister of truth? Who? The Catholics? I mean, who? So let's see. I like it when you throw a little wrench in the engine and sit back and watch what happens. I like that. I don't mind it. It lets things work out, and hopefully water seeks its level and the cream rises. You know? I put it on the Twitters today, and someone wrote, well, scum rises too. And I wrote, more please. Sure, let it rise and we'll deal with it. Okay, enough of Musk, but on a side note, Wizards of the Coast, who bought TSR, who are a subsidiary of Hasbro. Who owns Hasbro? If someone can look that up. If Hasbro's owned by another big corporation. So the beloved Dungeons & Dragons, which was an underground masterpiece that influenced generations of people. You hear me talking about it all the time. They changed, I believe, 33 of their monsters' backstories because they were problematic. Quote, problematic. For instance, orcs, because it said orcs were inherently evil, it got put as a racist thing. So they got rid of the inherent evil of orcs. They got rid of... Okay, so this is the funny one. Does everybody know what a beholder is? You've all seen them. It's a big monster that's a ball with an eye and tentacles with little eyes. I have a shirt that I wear that Sean Auberg made. It's a monster. It's a really powerful Dungeons & Dragons creation monster. And in the rules, it says that beholders think they're the most and best race in the universe. And so if another beholder shows up, the evil beholder will make friends with humans to fight the other beholder, and then he'll probably kill the humans. So they got rid of the notion that beholders think they're the top dog because it means a supremacy of sorts. So they're going through, and anything that hints at doing some sort of supremacy thing, out. So any mention of slavery, servitude, gone from anything in Dungeons & Dragons. Excuse me? I'm a little confused here. First of all, orcs aren't real, and they're monsters. It's a race of monsters. Great. But the thing that's weird, I mean, I'm really, like, when I saw some of this, I was like, oh my. So anything that smells like dominance is out. Now, I wrote this down here. What about, for instance, literally last week in one of my games, if any of my players are watching in my group, they came across a cult of sorts, that going through the temple, they found this wheel, this like mill of sorts. And yes, there were people chained to it, enslaved, dare I say, to operate the wheel. So, and guess what? My players, who are basically chaotic and do some terrible things in the game occasionally, they freed the slaves. They freed them. So, to me, this is beyond anything I have ever seen. It's really weird. Like, if somebody wants to play the bad guys, does that mean they're inherently evil? I really am starting to lose faith in the direction things are going and the willingness to people to not say something about it. It's really sad. And if we're going in a direction where things are literally being hidden as not to trigger people, I can't imagine where that goes. The future. The future of that, if I fast forward it and make it progress a bit, is a horror film. A horribly terrifying horror film of reality that we will live in. Will all World War II games be scrubbed of a Nazi reference because it triggers people? I don't understand. See, Nazis are okay because they've been selected as the scapegoat. It's okay to have them around as long as you're picking on them. They have to be the scapegoat, you know? So it's weird. There's like somebody gets to decide who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. And for me, here. Well, okay, so what they're doing, interesting, Pataki. So somebody just wrote in here, do all the characters, monsters, and villains now have the same hit points, armor class? It's going to happen, though. So what they did was they scrubbed their backstories and just kept their statistics. So soon, it's going to be like, well, if you have a stronger stat than me, that's unfair. You know, it's weird. I might have told this story before. I got asked to Dungeon Master at a game store who I like the games. I like the people there and I like the game. And I was asked to Dungeon Master my beloved game, Dungeon Crawl Classics. And Dungeon Crawl Classics doesn't go into the realm of, I mean, to me, it reminds me of the old days of how role-playing games work. And so, in the game, before we started, the person that runs the place told me that there's like a card that people have on their table. I think it's a red card or a yellow card. And if anybody that plays the game pushes it forward, it means they're feeling uncomfortable. And I was like, huh? Uncomfortable at what? And they were like, well, uncomfortable at the situation, the game. There's trigger words. And I said, well, I won't have to worry about that because as soon as they meet me, they know how I am, who I am, and how I don't care about that. They'll know right away just by my personality. And they're like, no, that's not how we do it here. And I'm like, trust me, it'll work. And that's how I am. I put myself out quick. If anybody's offended by just my attitude towards life, they probably shouldn't be playing games with me, especially if I am Dungeon Master. And I'll call it a Dungeon Master, even though Dungeons and Dragons owns the name Dungeon Master, which is ridiculous. That's why you'll see it referred to as Game Master. Anyway. Okay. I can't believe it. It's like, are you not going to be able to write books where the bad guys win? Are you not? I mean, where does this go? What's the end? What happens to film and books and all things entertainment? We're not allowed to play around with ideas that are deemed a little dangerous, bad, politically incorrect. Maybe through our exploration of political incorrectness and bad behavior, we'll learn something. Whenever I Dungeon Master kids, they do bad things in the game sometimes. I let them. It's the place to explore those and discuss the ideas. I mean, I don't know if I need to say any more about it. And one more thing before we get into the subject, because I could talk about this all night. The Johnny Depp thing, very quickly. What I see on the TV, because it's... First thing is the amount of media coverage it's getting is, yes, a lot. Why? They're movie stars. The thing that didn't get media coverage was the Ghislaine how do you pronounce that? Ghislaine Maxwell case. No one talked about that. Pretty funny, seeing that was literally a court trial involving literally Bond villains that are tied to our government that they didn't want anybody to talk about. Oh, they own the word Dungeon Master for sure, William. That's right. If you use Dungeon Master, you get... In Dungeon Crawl Classics, they're called judges, which is a cool name for it. I just say Dungeon Master. Please. You're the master of the dungeon. That's what it's been since the beginning. I hope they lose that one day. They shouldn't own that at this point. So, yeah, the Johnny Depp case is all over the place, getting lots of attention. The thing that I've noticed, first of all, I've seen other people posting this. I would say most people I know are on Team Depp they're on Team Depp, not the other, not on Amber's side. When I watch the court case, I get a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder. Anybody who's had to deal with somebody that has borderline personality disorder, watching some of it it gives me goosebumps at what was said, the things that were done, the energy, the whole notion. I remember when Depp said he was living with an opponent, not a friend. That whole thing, I was like, wow. Amber literally is textbook living embodiment of borderline personality disorder. Anybody out there, look it up. I don't like telling people about it sometimes because everybody knows somebody that has the symptoms, and usually they're like, wow, those symptoms are exact. Okay, so Mealy, C.R. Mealy, one of the body language things that I was studying, this is great. He mentioned that it's a body language, which is why I'm watching it. So there's a video of Amber in the English trial being grilled by lawyers, and she's eating, which is really a weird thing. It's almost like her lawyer said, eat, so that when you have a hard question, you can not talk. It's great. At one point, they ask her if she ever hit Johnny Depp, and I'm not exaggerating. This is what she does. She goes, no. She shakes her head yes and says no. I'm not kidding. Ding, 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 ding. Something's wrong. Anywho, I identify with that court case on a very visceral level, and I'm not saying Johnny Depp's a good guy. He's clearly self-destructive and a crazy artist type. Clearly, we know that. But if you ever want to look up what's going on underneath the surface, look up borderline personality disorder, and you're going to be like, wowzers. Yeah. One day I might do an episode on my experience with it. It's a hot issue. Oh my gosh, did he really, Dan? He lived with Hunter S. Thompson. Wow, okay. I mean, dude, he lives on the edge. Johnny Depp he's on the edge. He's an edgelord, I think they're calling him now. He's one of those guys. Okay. Let's talk about something. Let's get into the meat. We got a good group in here tonight. I really want to hear people's thoughts on some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight, because I don't have my head wrapped around it 100%. We're going to go to a philosophy zone, a thought experiment zone, something that when people talk about Friedrich Nietzsche, they don't always put this in the front. Some people do, but I don't know. It didn't come out right away for me. It took a minute for me to digest. Now, for anybody that doesn't know Friedrich Nietzsche's works, I think I've read 3 now. I've been through 3 of his works fully, but I've read a lot about, I've read more than that, because I've read a lot of the essays that aren't in books. I've listened to hundreds of hours of lectures now on the works and Nietzsche's just as a person. I've listened to I put a lot of effort into this because I realized how much meat was in this and how vast and poetic it all was. Oh, wow. He really did. I didn't know this. Oh, wow. This is amazing. I didn't know he was, I didn't know he was friends with him. All right, now I'm going to change my seating here because I really can think better like this. I don't know why. Maybe this is why they always show gurus sitting like this. I'm not a guru. Please don't ever. I'm not trying to be a guru. Yeah. So, one of the things about Nietzsche that people don't realize is that he didn't write a book about each one of his little principles that he kind of came up with. He just kind of mixed it all together. His works, all of them, are fractal in nature, and all the info of his life's works you can kind of find in almost every sentence of sorts. And the main themes are kind of throughout. And yes, some of them he came to a little later, like will to power. He didn't come up with that concept until a little later in. One of the things that he came up with as his, I don't know what you call it, a thing. He came up with a thing called eternal reoccurrence, or also known as eternal return. Anybody familiar with this? If you are, I'm curious. And I'm curious of your interpretations of it. If not, sit back and listen to my interpretations. And tonight, you'll be able to have opinions on it right away. I think it's kind of a complex thing to think about, but not really. And you'll see in a second. I'm going to read to you something that he wrote before we get here. And this quote is from the Gay Science, which is fantastic. And I'm not all the way through that one. Listen to this. And I think you're going to like this. Here we go. It starts now his punctuation is wacko, and I love it because, and this is the thing about Nietzsche. He's not just a philosopher, he's a poet. Everything he writes has a cadence and a bounce to it that fires the meaning he's trying to come up to push. It's almost as if, to me, you got it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Lilith, you're on. I mean, yeah. It's not just history. It's everything. Okay. People, when I discovered Shakespeare, the thing that I was blown away by, is Shakespeare wrote it in a manner that if you read it the way it's written, there's a certain bounce to it that leads to how you should act. He's directing your acting and the action through the words. When I saw that, in college is where I really saw it. I was kind of blown away. Like, wow, this guy really was a genius, because it's not an accident that he did it this way. To me, Nietzsche's similar. Okay, so in italicized writing, it says, the heaviest burden, comma, dash. Now back to regular type print. What if a demon crept after you one day or night in your loneliest solitude and said to you, this life, as you live it now, and have lived it, you will have to live again and again, times without number. And there will be nothing new in it, but every pain, every joy, every thought, and every sigh, and all the unspeakably small and great in your life must return to you. And everything in the same series and sequence, and in the same way this spider and this moonlight among the trees, and in the same way this monument and I myself, the eternal hourglass of existence will be turned again and again, and you with it, you dust of dust. Would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon who thus spoke? Or have you experienced a tremendous moment in which you would have answered him, this is great, you are a god, and never did I hear anything more divine. If this thought gained power over you, it would, as you are now, transform and perhaps crush you. The question in all and everything, do you want this again and again, times without number, would lie as the heaviest burden upon all of your actions. Or How well disposed towards yourself and towards life would you have to become to have no greater desire than for this ultimate eternal sanction and seal? That's fantastic. Eternal reoccurrence is, he doesn't ever say it's a thought experiment, first of all, and he never ever says it's science. He doesn't need to. It's irrelevant. He's saying the thought experiment is, imagine your life, literally the minute you die, you wake up and do it all over again, exactly how it was. So therefore, every moment in your life, you evaluate as, this is it. And, okay, so if you look at the philosophies that he's throwing out there, one of his themes that he never backs down from is to love life. And Nietzsche really used to kind of shit on the Stoics, yet he loved the notion of amor fati, which it means love your fate. If bad things happen, you say, more please, I can handle it. This is part of the deal. And he says, and I agree, if you really do say that you love life, does that mean everything or just parts of it? Oh, I only love parts of it. I only like the good stuff. The bad stuff I don't love. And Nietzsche thought that was a little inconsistent, because the bad stuff is what leads to the good stuff. Or it comes from it. It has to. It has to be, in a way. It doesn't make sense without. Some people, and I think he thought that his centerpiece to all of his philosophy came to this one thing. And it's not will to power. It's not Ubermensch, Superman. It's eternal reoccurrence. And I thought, why did he think that this was his crowning achievement? Or why would that be the best thing he came up with? I have my own thought experiment, my 2-year Mori plan. This is his thought experiment that he came up with. And I think the reason is because it's practical. It's the part of his philosophy that even if you aren't the type that would appreciate his will to power Ubermensch stuff, at least this one can make a little sense, even to a common guy who's doesn't believe in deities. Interesting. Okay, Jason just put, reliving the same life is better than just one with an ultimate end. Well, I mean, honestly, I think it ultimately does end. Honestly. I mean, who knows about this dimensional nonsense? But I like the idea of when you experience it, you're like, wow, I will get to do this again, so I might as well relish in it, even the bad stuff. Now, what did I... Oh, yeah. I wrote down, it lets you see clear your value to life by doing this thought experiment. It lets you stop, and when bad things are happening, evaluate your value to what is happening and where they fall. It's almost like, and it's funny, I found a Bible verse. The Bible verse is nothing new under the sun. Now, here's something else I wanted to read. This is from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Zarathustra. And this is one of his books that goes into a narrative storytelling version of him teaching the philosophy. I recommend people don't read this until they've read some of his other stuff, so they kind of have a little bit of a grasp on his concepts of will to power, Ubermensch, eternal reoccurrence. I'm missing a few. I'll get to them. I mean, just him talking about he also talks a lot about the genealogy of where our morals come from. Just the let's watch our history of where they came from, which I think is kind of important, and no one talks about that. Okay, this is cool. This is near the end of Zarathustra, and the character Zarathustra, who's ultimately Friedrich Nietzsche. Here, this is great. He's talking about eternal reoccurrence, Zarathustra here. Existence begins in every instant. The ball there rolls around every here. And there and here are capitalized there, which is weird. The middle is everywhere. The path of eternity is crooked. Wait, hold on. This is where it gets really juicy. Okay, here it is. For your animals well know, O Zarathustra, and this is his animals talking to him, you, who you are, must become. Behold, you are the teacher of eternal reoccurrence. That is now your destiny. This is the other characters talking now. That you have to be the first to teach this doctrine. How should this great destiny not also be your greatest danger and sickness? Behold, we know what you teach, that all things reoccur eternally, and we ourselves with them, and that we have already existed an infinite number of times before, and all things with us. You teach that there is a great year of becoming, a colossus of a year. This year must, like an hourglass, turn itself over again and again, so that it may run down and run out anew, so that all these years resemble one another in the greatest things and in the smallest, so that we ourselves resemble ourselves in each great year, and in the greatest things and in the smallest. And if you should die now, O Zarathustra, behold, we know what you would say to yourself. But your animals ask you not to die yet. You would say without trembling, but rather gasping for happiness. For a great weight and oppression would have been lifted from you, most patient of men. Now I die and decay, you would say, and in an instant I shall be nothingness. Souls are as mortal as bodies. But the complex of causes in which I am entangled will reoccur, and it will create me again. Now chew on that. Whew! That's a lot to chew on. I really like his writings because they make me spin. They make me stop and go, what the heck am I reading? And as I'm starting to piece it together, it starts to come to light. And I realize that every single word that this gentleman wrote, he picked for a reason. Now, I'm reading in English. This is the Hollingdale translation, which a lot of people think is one of the better ones. I found some bad translations online that are hard to read. Ooh, there's a film footage of Nietzsche's last days alive. Someone ran in and filmed him. It's like right before, it's like 1899, or it's right before, I forget exactly when, but he looks really messed up and it's really sad. Yeah, he's in a chair sitting and he's like, his eyes look crazy. I mean, it's really sad. Anybody have thoughts on this? I think as a thought experiment, it's kind of wild that when you're suffering to really just say, yeah, I'm going to do this again. And I've done it before. It's the same old, same old. I've been here, I've done that, and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to, I hate to say enjoy it, because I know that even though I'm suffering and I'm in pain and in misery, the scars that will come out of it will lead me to some new surprise of sorts, something to chew on, a new idea that I didn't see before. I mean, honestly, anytime I've had something bad happen in my life, I learned something and I grew something and I used it to my advantage. I don't know if that's true for everybody. I know there's types of people that when bad things happen, they fall apart and that's the end. I don't know what to say. But that's their existence of sorts, I would say. I mean, yeah, I don't know how to wrap my head around it. It just seems to me that the nature of reality that I see is that it's just all there. It's part of the soup, and there's nothing anybody's going to do about it. I mean, honestly, it's just, I wrote this the other today. I was just thinking, and I was writing, fall in love with your life. I mean, everybody's trying to fall in love with another human or their passions and hobbies, but just life in general. If you can fall in love with life, and that means everything, the good, the bad, and all of it, it's all you have, and it's your experience. Now, it's funny. The reason why this is kind of painful to us, I think, is because it is literally the opposite of the concept of an afterlife in heaven. And to me, the idea of a heaven, a place where I've heard, I mean, when I was little, I remember hearing this, and it made me feel uncomfortable. A friend of mine, who's a very close friend in high school's grandfather died, whom he was close with. And he said, I know, I was like, are you okay? How's it going? And he's like, all I know is he's in a better place. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, oh, he's in heaven with his family. He's in a better place than here. And then it felt uncomfortable. I was like, I know he's saying it to ease his own pain, but that means he thinks here is bad. And that it wasn't better here. It was better there. And I never understood that. It's terrible. And to me, that's what Nietzsche's getting at, is the idea of a better place is the denial of loving life here. Being dead in outer space is not life. I don't know what that is. The spirit realm, I don't know what that is. I've yet to meet somebody who's been there and returned. I know some people will say the Jewish carpenter went there and returned. But I'm not buying that one. So I just think the idea of an afterlife and a heaven is literally the opposite idea of what I'm saying here and what Nietzsche was saying. Paradise as opposed to this veil of tears. Ooh, I like that. I mean, that's it. I mean, why even here can be paradise, or is paradise? Is this not? At least I interpret it as such. It's all I have. Why would I invent a fantasy realm that's better? Unless I don't like where I'm at. And if you don't like where you're at because of somebody else or your own doing, I don't know what to say. I mean, whose problems are those? You can blame somebody else. You can blame your framing. You could do something about it. You could jump off a bridge. I don't know. There's no better place. Just this place. Yeah. We haven't been to Mars yet, but I have a funny feeling if we go there, it will be the same. Because it will be us that is there shaping reality through our POV, right? Yeah, the concept of heaven, Nietzsche called it Hinterwelt. And he, believe it or not, blames Socrates and Plato. Actually, Plato. Wow, this is interesting. I tell my sons to go to the beach and make a 1-inch circle and in the sand. And we are a grain in that circle. Oh, I love it, Jason. That's a beautiful way to teach kids. I used to tell, I've told this story before, but I got into a debate with a rabbi, and he asked me how I explain God to my kids. And I didn't say that I'm an atheist and don't teach my kids that there's deities floating around. But I said, and this is true, I said, to me, this is what I teach my kids about God, with a lowercase g, as I always write it. There's no place like home. I agree. I'll click my heels right now. There you go. See? Well, there you go. Oh, God, this is juicy. So I said to the rabbi, look, I teach my kids that God is explaining a DVD Blu-ray player to an ant. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's not happening. Maybe in 1 trillion years, if that ant evolves, but it's not happening. He can't. It's literally impossible. He can't even understand the concept of it, yet alone what it is. So to me, that's what God is. Well, that's it. They do cause the real. I mean, so the Nietzsche model of badness is the world religion. Okay, so Plato invented forms, and the land of forms is where everything's perfect. It's the idea. It's the realm of design, and to me, it all comes down to: do you think our values come from somewhere else, or do you think we literally just invent them? The only value I see coming from somewhere else is the reality of how our molecules work. Like, and this is what Nietzsche would talk about. That's why he said the master-slave thing is real, because something gives a command and something goes along with it. And sometimes he's the person giving the command and this guy's going to go along with it, and then they switch roles. But there's always somebody suggesting and someone saying, okay. And not only that, it's happening here inside your head. You have different drives doing the same thing. Do it. No, I don't want to do it. Or do it. Okay, I'll do it. So as soon as the, quote, slave morality became visible, the people that invented the Hinterwelt said, we're going to use this, quote, compassion and love to dominate. And that's where it gets dark. This is where darkness befalls reality. It's a really amazing bait and switch if you think about it. Jenny Lilly, welcome. Oh, we got new people in the house. Come on in. Hit that like and subscribe, everybody. It's getting there. I have a funny feeling I'm going to hit the 1,000 mark sooner than later. I don't know why, but I lost faith for a while that it just, dude, they don't allow growth on your channel because no one can find it unless you type it in exactly. It's weird. So I'm glad to see new people in here sometimes that aren't in here all the time. So this idea of a Hinterwelt, a better place floating somewhere else so that when you're suffering, you have this, God, I can't wait to die so that I get to go there. To me, that's really awful. That's hard to believe. I mean, for some, it gives them comfort. Heroin gives lots of people comfort. Does it not? Makes them feel great. What are people's thoughts? I know I'm past the 900, which took forever. Forever. People don't realize how hard it is on these channels to grow a following. It's not easy. And they certainly, I'm curious of what the Musk stuff's going to do. This is I didn't mention this earlier, but the thing with Musk, I hope, causes a little bit of a chain reaction to how the other platforms behave with their, quote, transparency and algorithms. I think it's cool. I mean, YouTube literally says, we favor corporate media. They said it. Even though the channel's called YouTube. Stupid. Yeah, folks, if anybody wants to read the works of Friedrich Nietzsche and have your mind blown by the poetry and his lightning bolts, I look up, make sure like the reviews say the translation's good. And I would be into him owning YouTube. I would rather him than whoever has it now. I mean, I looked up. So many of these companies have a parent company. Oh, we'll never be those people. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. I honestly, reading Nietzsche, one of the things that's kind of cool, and the reason why I don't think Nietzsche has been canceled yet, because he's very easily cancelable to the dummies. The dummies, they don't understand what he's saying, and they wouldn't even get past 2 sentences in here without putting it down of boredom because they can't comprehend. They literally can't comprehend it. Most people's reading levels are really low, which is why Harry Potter, I believe, was popular. I do. Everybody was reading it because it was written for middle schoolers. It was easy. I've never tried reading it. I could probably read the whole thing in like a weekend. Amanda J, what's up? You should listen to this episode. There's some nice stuff in here. I really wanted to do this for my own thinking. Um, what was I saying? Oh, Nietzsche. The cool thing about studying him and the reason why he hasn't been canceled. Well, if Google owns YouTube, Alphabet Inc. owns Google, and Alphabet Inc. has one primary shareholder, like an Elon Musk, that none of us have ever heard of, who also is in the top 10 richest people on earth. Yeah, really weird. Some family that was religious. Yeah, well, the afterlife is pretty popular. I mean, I think probably 80% of people buy into it. The thing about Nietzsche, the reason why he hasn't been canceled, there are millions of hours of discussion, thoughts, lectures, books, dissecting his words on a very, very meta level, and it's all free online. There's endless articles and essays by people with doctorates in philosophy and in sociology writing about Nietzsche. One of the persons that's been doing a lot of chat about Nietzsche and uses Nietzsche as a character in their lectures is Jordan Peterson. Now, Jordan Peterson, I have some agreeances with him. I like his stuff on free speech. I like his stance that he has on free speech. I mean, he's a free speech guy. But I think it's weird how he explains his belief in God and in religion. And so he is basically a Christian existentialist. And I'm not kidding. Which literally is, you can't be that if you're a Christian. Because an existentialist says there's no point to anything. And a Christian says, oh no, there's a point. There's this Jewish guy and a God and his father. And you're here to do this, this, and this, and this. I mean, it's the opposite. But for some reason, he's always quoting Nietzsche. And I think one of the things that he always says is that, you know, when Nietzsche said God is dead, he said it was kind of a terrible thing. And that is not true. He's completely wrong and clearly didn't read much of Nietzsche's works. He had nothing to do with him not liking the notion that, and when Nietzsche said God is dead, which is, I guess, one of his concepts, he means we don't need the carrot dangle to make decisions anymore. We don't need it. And a lot of people at his time weren't subscribing to, oh, wait, what's this? Google is out to make money like everyone else. Well, that's why they don't write down their rules, because they change them when it suits making money. And that's a fact. The reason why they don't go, you're not allowed to use these words, is because it changes depending on what the news story is and who's says you're not allowed to do this, you're allowed to do this, or this is considered good and inclusive, this is considered bad and bigoted. And because it's malleable and changing, they don't want to say. Just like how China doesn't have free speech law, they make it up as they go along too. And so, you know, and Google is a filter for the world. Think about how much Google filters the world. Most people go to Google. I use DuckDuckGo, but that's not even perfect, but it's still better than Google. Yeah, it's weird. We're living in weird times, folks. People don't want to have to think. We evolved not to want to think. That's the normal. That's the baseline normal. And I always tell this to people. I really do believe that all of our bad habits that everybody hates, that make us monstrous, bigoted losers, are the qualities that got us here today, unfortunately. And so now we're dealing with value shifts matching our biological chemical blasts, which is a mess. And going to be for a while, if not for all eternity, as it repeats over and over again. Oh, wow. I don't know what else to say today. Only God knows best for you. Yeah, true. You also don't want to have to tell the truth. Exactly. I wrote today on Twitter somewhere that I want more lies. Give them to me. I can handle them. And if that means the dummies are going to make bad decisions, then so be it. I'll position myself so that they fall and I'm out. You know, that's fine with me. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Yeah, it's getting weird. There you go. Mr. C.R. Mealy just wrote, Google just announced it is launching an inclusive language function. What does that even mean? I really can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I really do think that it's sad that the free speech stuff is now leaning to the right, not the left. It makes no sense to me. To me, it doesn't lean anywhere. There's no leaning. There's no lean. It shouldn't be either. It's free speech. It's hate is relative. What does that even mean? I don't even understand it anymore. I'm always telling people I don't understand it. I've gotten into debates with people and they're mad that I don't understand it. And I'm like, okay, then explain it to me. Like, you know, hating rich people, is that not a form of hate speech? Hating poor people, is that not a form of hate? There's a hierarchy to all of this that I don't understand, and I'm trying to. Yeah. Well, again, oh yeah, this is good. It is supposed to thwart the politically incorrect. The thing that I always bring up to people is, what if you're going to use hate speech in an artistic manner to make a point? Whenever I ask that to people that have never thought about it, they usually don't say anything. They're like, because they don't even know what that means. What if you're going to make a movie where, I mean, you heard what I said about Dungeons and Dragons today. They are removing from the description of a monster that the monster that's a head with eyeballs thinks it's superior to other monsters and all races. They're removing that description as not to trigger. I don't understand. Please, somebody explain that to me. Is there anybody watching right now that can explain that so that I can understand why that's good? Please, somebody explain it to me. I mean, really, I can't. It blows my mind that that's a reality being discussed. And whenever I've had debates with some people, and I get harsh sometimes, where I'll just look at them and be like, where does it say I have to like you or your opinion and I'm not allowed to hate your guts? Please show me where it says that. I'm allowed to hate whomever I want, however I want, for whatever reason I want. Oh. Yeah, it's a monster. It's not even a real thing. I want my Dungeons and Dragons players to explore bad things and to do terrible things. And yes, there is racism in fantasy worlds. The elves don't like the dwarves. They don't. The dwarves don't like the elves. What, are they going to get rid of Lord of the Rings now? I mean, it's crazy. Well, one of the things they don't like is inherent good and inherent evil. Which I don't even like that. I don't believe in good and evil either. I don't mind it in a game format. You know, I don't believe in good and evil. So if you say that orcs are inherently evil, and for some reason somebody interpreted it as being our treatment of African Americans in this country, and it's like, great, you can think that way, but that's not. I guarantee you, the nerds that wrote this game weren't going like, let's make this that, so that. It's just so bad. It's so bad. Party on, Ruth. Goodbye Mel Brooks movies. Goodbye 90% of my record collection. I mean, really. One of the things that BLM was doing, 2 years ago now, during the riot time, they were calling up venues and getting certain heavy metal bands not allowed to play. So I forget which band it was. It booked a whole tour. They basically got all of their gigs canceled. And then it came out, they're not Nazis. They had a couple songs about Nazis. And I'm like, wait, Slayer has songs about Nazis. Why weren't they canceled? I mean, it just, it makes no sense. It's so bad. Peter wrote, I try to find the positive in everything I do. If I find a benefit in something that isn't ideal, I don't dwell on it as a hindrance. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Oh, folks, please think about these things. Talk about these things. I know it's hard to find people to talk about this stuff without people, getting all, upset or triggered or you got to talk about it. We have to. Free speech is really big. It's one of the things that when I see it slowly shrinking, it really frightens me. It frightens me more than nuclear war in some ways. I mean, nuclear war clearly is pretty bad, but free speech to me is right beside it because it enables a thing that's literally 2 steps a horror film. Yeah, Angel of Death. their hit song. It even has a lyric about the master Aryan race in it. I mean, it says it. Are they Nazis? No, of course not. Yeah. Well, exactly. That's why you're here. We're here to listen, chat, discuss. I talk about this kind of stuff with my kids all the time. My kids are now one's 15 and one's 20. They're both, one's turning 16 this summer and the other one's turning 21. It blows my mind. I'm very proud of them as human beings and for being free thinkers. I never told them this is how you should be. I never pushed religions on them or anything, any way, shape, or form. I let them mess up on their own, suffer on their own, and take care of their own problems. I taught them how to wash the dishes, make food, run errands, and fight for their life. And they are the kind of kids that I can sit down and we can have a really good discussion on religion, politics, racism, and free speech issues, the hot issues. We can have really, really deep and meaningful conversations, and they have their own opinions. And if they have a opinion different than mine, I'm like, well, explain it and research it and let's duke it out. You did not see that coming. Yes, Slayer. They had songs about Nazis. I mean, Lemmy from Motorhead collected Nazi memorabilia. Why? He liked bad guy stuff. I mean, does it make him a Nazi? No. The opposite view of what? I'm curious. On free speech? I'm curious. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Weird Al. Can you imagine him getting canceled? Oh my. I've watched Reverend Campbell's shows, many of them, and I liked them. I didn't get to watch anything on like free speech issues or anything. I'm for all speech, even the bad stuff. To me, that's where growth comes from. That's where you learn. Oh, you mean on the parenting thing? Yeah, he collected SS daggers. That's right. Supposedly, Lemmy had in his house or his apartment a carpet that belonged to Hitler. I only have one piece of Nazi memorabilia. It's in my horror show, and it's a coin. I own one coin. And I have a line where I go, oh, some say money is the root of all evil. And I point, and people can come up and look, and it's crazy when you see minted money with a swastika. It's like, whoa, jeez. I mean, with parenting, I mean, my way of parenting is to let them, I call it punk rock parenting. It's let them do whatever they want. And if they mess up, it's on them. They have to fix it. You're there for love and support on their decisions. And you're not there to pick up the pieces to the puzzle when they spill them. You can help them a bit to maybe point them in a little bit of a direction as a director of sorts, but no, you let them deal with it. I told my kids when they were little, you can say whatever you want in school. I don't care. You can swear. Go ahead. If you get in trouble, that's on you. I don't care. Go. The first Motorhead album had a swastika. Oh yeah, I heard about that. I did hear about that. I mean, dude, there are pictures with Sid Vicious walking around with a swastika t-shirt. Was he a Nazi? Absolutely not. He was doing it to make people mad. And he should be allowed to do that. Do you have to buy his records? No. You can boycott him. Go ahead. Wow. Well, my mom is in the house. My mother always told you to fly. She always told me to fly, which is crazy cool because that's what Nietzsche always says. It's not about looking straight forward. It's about looking up. And looking up is what Ubermensch is all about. If you want to be the Overman, the Superman, and go where eagles dare, you can't do it looking down. You can't even do it looking straight ahead. You have to look up to the sky and be willing to take risks. And in that, there's dangerous stuff. There's things that might be upsetting. There's new values that you're going to have to look at. And on that note, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Monday. I like Mondays, as you know. I get excited when I wake up on Mondays. I kind of pop out of bed pretty easy and start mapping out my week. As it gets closer to summer, I'm going to still be doing these Monday shows for sure. My morning writings where I write these, I've been writing a 400-word essay now for about a year, 5 days a week, which is, I don't know how I've been doing that. I used to hate writing. I mean, hate it. Not kidding. If you went back in time 3 years ago and said, yo, dude, you're going to be writing a 400-word essay 5 days a week, I would have been like, oh, horrible. That sounds terrible. Well, I'm doing it. But I am going to take a break, I think, as soon as it gets warm out, I'm going to be very busy. I have a prediction that my town of Rockaway Beach is going to be extremely busy. It's going to be really busy. And my Airbnb is going to be busy. Anybody looking for a crazy vacation? Come party at the Red House. We have a very expensive hot tub now as part of the package deal. I'm going to be busy, so I'm also going to devote more of my time in the morning as opposed to writing public posts. I'm going to be writing my books and trying to finish them, at least trying to hone them in. I have a few things I'm working on. They're not easy, but that's what's going on. And I'm getting busier with my magic business. This week, I have 2 corporate gigs. And then the following week, I think I have 3. I'm starting to get corporate gigs back. Thank gods. My goodness. This has been a wild year. I mean, I got to say, it's been a wild, 3 years now? 2.5 years? I've lost track. Great output. Wow, okay. I mean, I never think of myself as a writer. I still don't think of myself as a writer, even though I write every day. I'm not a writer. I'm a magician. I'm a punk rock bass player, and I do magic shows. That's how, if you say, well, what do you do? I go, I do magic shows for basically everybody, and I play in a band and have for many years, and I write songs. So, but as a writer, I'm not there yet. I don't think of myself as a writer, but I like writing. I've been enjoying it a lot. It's become a part of my day now. Folks, I love this room. I love this group. It really gets the juices flowing of what to think about, and I hope everybody has a great week. Yeah, jump in my Instagram, Cardone Magic, and I supplement this through that. I write essays. I post lots of fun stuff about my magic shows. I don't post a lot of magic tricks. People go, post more magic. I am so sick of seeing TikTok magic. The new trend is to show the secret, where the guy's like facing this way and there's someone there and you see the secret, and they're exposing a lot of tricks. Some guys in one short little video will expose the secret to like 5 different tricks just for getting TikTok likes. Those people can jump off a bridge and die. Lame. So lame. They're not magicians in any way, shape, or form, nor were they ever. They're not wizards. So that's why I don't do a lot of magic. But I do post a little bit here and there. Very rarely, though. Folks, this has been great. I'm out of here. I'm going to go work on my stuff. And I'm going to take us out tonight with my outro. Let me think. Is there anything in here fun to watch? Nah. Let's just take it with the outro. This is episode 119. It's Evening Hour Live. Hit that like, subscribe, and notify. And I'll see you next week with episode 120. Wow. I can't believe we've gone this far. Party on, everybody. Have a good one.